Book study. Mrs. Clayton will lead the discussion on the final chapter of our book. That's right. Bring us home.
Okay, you got the light. All right, good evening. So we are finishing up the book, Engage Every Family by Stephen Constantino. We have been through the 5 principles. Principle 1 was the culture that engages every family. Number 2 was communicate effectively and build relationships. Number 3 was empower every family. Number 4, engage every family in decision making. And number 5, engage the greater community. And now we are on chapter 10, which is taking action and measuring success. So on the first page of chapter 10, there's a statement that says what gets measured gets done. And we know that if there is a measurement, the likelihood of it being a follow-through is much greater than if there is no measurement. And I think that that's pretty much a true statement, unless you guys otherwise disagree. All right, well, when we think about measurement, of course, we need to start with our data. And so on page 198, he outlines a couple of points. 1, look at the data to determine whether our amount of time, energy, and resources will provide us with the best results. And then he also mentions that effectively engaging every family, it will be important to start with the data that is most important to our school or our district. So that's true. And of course, there is a lot of data, I believe, for us to take a look at. I threw up some examples of performance data. I didn't mention all of the ones that he had listed, but I'm sure, Craig, you could probably pipe in here as to whether or not these kind of align with what we have, and I'm sure there's a lot more as well available to us to take a look at.
Yeah, I saw in the book it mentioned some RTI data, which means student achievement data throughout the year, and where kids are starting the year and where we see growth during the year. So, I mean, he's right. He mentions in there's probably more data in school districts than you could ever manage, and I think that's probably true for us. Thinking about, some of the topics for this in the parent engagement, we have numbers about parent-teacher conference participation at all of the school districts and PTO and parent participation at PTO meetings. We have data about parent participation at Title I meetings at the elementaries and activities that we do there. So I think we are data rich. It's just making some decisions about what is it we want to know and how will we know how to measure it and what we want to measure. But I think we are data rich.
That's good. Perfect. So the next thing that he talks about is goal statements. And on page 199, he says, a more broad a goal, the less likely it to be met. And the more grandiose a goal, the less likely it to be effective. So then he goes into talking about SMART goals. And so for those at home, what a SMART goal is, the S stands for specific, M means measurement, A means attainable, R means result-oriented, and T means time-bound. And for us, my understanding is we use SMART goals within our school system. Maybe you guys could give some examples of where those are.
A lot of the PLC groups in each building and in building the school improvement plans that you see each fall, a lot of the buildings are split into teams, and I would say at one time we were far heavier into SMART goals. All goals had to be SMART goals, and at times that seemed to limit us away from some qualitative things that we think make us a good school district as well. But we still use SMART goals in the school improvement planning process. With different departments or grade levels setting goals for what they would like to achieve, and whole buildings also setting goals for what they would like to achieve as part of that set process. So,
not to believe some of the curriculum areas have done this also,
and
what they want to achieve in like ninth grade
Well, especially the higher level, the higher age that you go, the junior high and high school, when you're a little more departmentalized, they will focus very strongly on some SMART goals about student achievement. Yeah, but this can be for student attendance. It could be for attendance at parent-teacher conferences, anything that you can, but it needs to be something that's measurable. And sometimes not all of our goals fit measurable. They're a little more qualitative, but we need to define things that are measurable. So.
I think on those, when they first started using them, it was a really great way to focus in on what they really wanted to know. You know, there's lots we want to know, but what do you specifically want to know, this semester or this quarter or whatever, and it helped them get a little bit more specific, I think.
It's a good way to also to differentiate between goals and strategies. There are times that we will list strategies as goals, things that we want to do, when really those are strategies. So this is also a good practice to really make you focus and see what is it we want to accomplish.
So for those at home, or those watching, I should say, I went ahead and gave an example of a SMART goal that was in the book, just to kind of give you some data that led up to developing this SMART goal. They looked at 4th through 8th grade, specifically at bullying and the number of instances that had occurred. And what they were trying to accomplish was reducing those the bullying instances. So here, I'll just read it to you. So by June, they picked a time frame. They listed the school through various strategies, including family engagement, will decrease instances of bullying in the 8th grade by a percentage. So it's a SMART goal because it's specific. It tells you about bullying decreases. It's measurable because it decreases by a percent. It's attainable. It assumes the percent is reasonable. It's results-oriented because it looks for better behavior and less bullying issues. And it's time-bound because they want it done by June. All right, and I liked how after they did their SMART goal, they went into the action plan and tied each action back to one of the principles. I was wondering how they were going to insert that piece in there, so I thought that was kind of interesting how they had done that. So, and then of course the chapter goes on and shows us some format that we can use, and then I like how it's kind of summed up by. It's that simple, right? We do. But it was a good book,
Yes, it was.
right? And I think we,
Excellent choice.
learned a lot from it,
Excellent.
and I think there's a lot we can do with it moving forward. All right. That's all I got. I was lucky. I got a short chapter.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Do you want to, Ms. Hatt, would you like to talk just a little bit about your thoughts about continuing this one?
Well, I instead of us doing another book study next year, I think I would like to have consensus of the board, and I talked with Craig about continuing with this. And we talked one day when I was meeting with them about actually, making it, seeing exactly where to go. We've got to definitely set up a framework for it. We just can't say, hey, teachers, we would like you to do this form on page 27 and get back to us, So I think we'll meet, or I don't know if just Craig and I or some of us will meet and we'll kind of see how this goes and actually kind of set up a framework on now from here, how do we thought maybe with some professional development days, implementing some, getting with the teacher group. Or, we talked just a little bit about that.
We talked that, we've had this discussion here, and some teachers and principals are aware of it, but we're talking about maybe doing things with classroom teachers all across the district. So there has to be
really get an action.
A lot of thoughts. And
yeah.
I don't know, in the epilogue, it gave you two huge questions. And the question one was, what do you want? Mm-hmm. And two, what are you willing to give to get it? And so there's a lot of defining of what do we want and what do we want this to look like and what do we think we'll get out of it. I mean, there's a lot of parts here, but I think it's very worthy of sitting down and developing a plan of how do we start putting some of these practices into place and see the benefits of increased parental engagement in the district. So,
but I think it's been an excellent book. I feel like it's touched everything that all of us feel very strongly about in this district. Because number one thing, our children, our students.
One of the things that stuck out to me from this book is that idea of instead of engaging parents with what we've done, engaging them with what we're going to do, how you can help your child. And I take that all the way back to parent-teacher conferences. We have our first parent-teacher conferences after the first quarter. Well, I wonder why we don't have them after the first 2 weeks of school. One, so we can tell them what we're going to do, and two, so we get to know them and engage them prior to those conferences. Because a lot of times those conferences are about, how your kid's doing or what your kid's not doing well, and it's can be maybe instead of a relationship building, it's becomes how do I fix this situation? So just a thought I had. And I know we have
the framework's probably already there for that. It may just be a tweak here and there. Like we have those open houses that are usually in the first couple of weeks of school, and so maybe the purpose of that changes a little bit rather than creating a whole new.
It's like he
more
says,
work
it's not doing anything harder, it's doing things differently.
right.
I think they gave
Different
some
thought process.
guidelines about contacting all the parents, the teacher doing that, and making that first contact not about performance. So that was, I think, in the first goal or first item.
And
Or
maybe
whatever
providing a
you
little
put
structure to that. What do you do in that first contact? What information do you want to gain from that? How do you want to build that relationship?
It may be a good smart
Kind of
goal
partners.
for classroom teachers.
Well, I kind of thought it's like in that chapter, it said the broader the goal, the harder it is to reach, and that's why it's hard to say, here's this book, let's do this. That's broad. We're going to have to, fully define what it is that we want and the steps that we think we can take to get there, and how we bring along all of the teachers and staff in the district to understanding and tapping into their expertise. They deal, the teachers deal with and communicate with parents all the time. So I know there are lots of great ideas out there, and we'll need to involve them in the process and tap into their daily life in working with kids and parents.
I was reading an article today about, I can't remember the name of the article, I was going to send it to you all, and I still will. But it was like we hear a lot of these things in education about why aren't they doing, blah, blah, blah. But it said actually we have an issue with tooting our own horn. Like our teachers probably are doing a lot of this, but because they don't toot their own horn, that's just kind of the way they are. They just say, this is who I am, this is what I do. But if we really probably knew everything that was going on, a lot of this is probably already going on. You're probably right.
Well, and speaking as a parent of the district, my kids have had teachers that have communicated with us really well and involved us and done a lot of the things that we read about
Right.
here. So I think you're right, because, we see it from the parent end as well. So
And what was
I
the
think
app
you're
we
right.
saw demonstrated that some elementary teachers are using?
Class Dojo.
Classroom dojo.
Class
Yeah.
Dojo. So
That's a great.
there are lots of
Perfect.
things going on. We had talked about, as a part of this book was a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not an inventory of our practices, but a survey of our current practices. And I think that will have to be a part of the plan moving forward. So, yeah, I think, I don't think it's a meaty enough topic that I think a full year study and working through there is probably
I agree, yeah.
pretty worthy.
So I think as he said, the starting place really is making the culture change and changing attitudes, and kind of getting everyone on the same page to believe that really every family wants what's best for their kids.
Absolutely.
And the ones who seem not to want that are ones who are facing challenges that don't allow them to see that way, and so with all due respect, when I hear that the assistant superintendent is well contacted by teachers, I'm not surprised. But, when someone, when a single parent working, when a single parent working 3 jobs, and has 4 kids in the school, so on and so forth, and just never has time to come by, we want to make sure that we empower those people and we support those people. So yeah, I think it's a great idea, to continue this.
Because there is so much
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, thank you, Carla.
You're welcome.